Hey friends, it's Dimitri with the Brushka Streetwear. Today I want to talk about some best practices for packing and shipping for your clothing brand. And if you think about this, this is kind of a step or a process of one of the most important parts of your clothing brand. I'll give you an example. So when you're playing soccer, the objective of the game is to score a goal, right? And get it past the goalie and not screw that process up. That's like the pinnacle thing that you're trying to do with soccer. And that's the same thing with a clothing brand. You have your customer and they order something, and now you got to pack it and it has to get to them, right? Your product has to get to the customer. That's the whole objective of your clothing brand and a business. So this is something that you don't want to screw up and fumble. You want to have your shipping station all ready to go, and you want things to flow smoothly so that your customer ends up with a product and it's in one piece and they enjoy it. So I'm gonna give you guys some tips from almost like 7 years of experience of doing this stuff. So these are just some things that I learned, and I didn't really have anyone to teach me this straight up. And I didn't really see a lot of videos at the time of stuff like this for a clothing brand, a packing station, that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna give you guys my tips. The first one and the most obvious one is that you need to create a packing station. And then from that point on, that's only one small portion of it. You want to optimize it from that point on. So obviously when you're starting out, you might just be in your bedroom, in your garage. You might just have a laptop with a little label printer and some clothing in some boxes. Well, that could be your packing station you have already started. But from that point on, you want to optimize it. You want to have a logical flow from the product to where you pack it, to where you put the label on, to where it goes out the door to the post office, right? You want things to be flowing smoothly. So you wouldn't want to have a packing station and then like all of your product is really far away and you have to go through a bunch of hoops to grab it. And then you have your poly mailers and boxes, and they're like in a really strange spot where you have to like reach for them and it's really hard to get and things are not organized. Then you're looking for the tape. Oh, your label printer ran out. You didn't have any labels reordered. So nothing was optimized and set up right. So now your whole process is very clunky and you're not really fulfilling the objective of fulfilling orders correctly and getting those out the door to the customer in a timely fashion. And maybe when you start out, you're like, well, it doesn't really matter because I don't really have a lot of orders. But you really want to start to, as soon as you create your packing station, you want to start to optimize it. And every day make little tweaks and be like, hey, does this belong here? Or is it better right here with my station? Should I put my table right here? Does it make sense for my computer to be right here rather than right here? You want all of that stuff to be thought out as you're packing and as you're learning. And, it's never going to be like a specific formula for how it's supposed to look like, because it really depends on your living situation, where you are at, what exactly you're packing, what exactly is going on in your business, because everyone's business is slightly different, even in the clothing space. And if you are watching this video and you sell other products, obviously that's going to be dramatically different as well. Even my business here, I sell mostly clothing, but I also sell books and other stuff like that. And that changes the process quite a bit. So lots of stuff is tweaked towards that. And once you do this, so you want to start out, even if you're not shipping a lot of orders, you want to start out thinking like this and doing this, because what's going to happen is eventually as you keep growing, your demand is going to keep growing. So that means you're going to have more orders to pack, which means it's going to take up more time, more space, more energy of you. And what might happen as well is you might actually go viral or blow up. And now you're all of a sudden faced with 1,000 orders and you don't really have a good system set up to package those orders and get them sent out in a timely fashion. So you want to make sure that you are always focusing on tweaking and making your setup better and better each day. The second one is have an SOP. So SOP, it just stands for Standard Operating Procedure. So what that means with shipping is that you want to be using a standard set of boxes that you have picked out that makes sense for what you're trying to ship. You want to have a standard process like, hey, this is how much tape we use for when we're packing this. This is how much packing material we use when packing this. This is exactly how this is supposed to be packed. It's not supposed to be in this box, but it's supposed to be here. We're supposed to use this poly mailer and not this one. This poly mailer is too thin. We got to use this one that's thicker. So you want to be learning and experimenting as you're growing your brand and figure out exactly what you need for packaging your orders and exactly the processes that you need for packaging your orders. And having a standard for your process is really important because you have a metric from you have a starting point from where you can learn and grow and experiment to get better from that point on. If you're not keeping track of what you're doing, you don't know if you're going to be improving or not. And having standards does not mean that you're rigid in what you're trying to do, because as you guys have been able to see on my channel, I'm constantly experimenting and finding better ways of doing it. I do have a standard, but that doesn't mean that that standard is set in stone. It means that I'm trying to be logical and scientific about what I'm doing, but I'm always open to finding a better way of doing it. And from time to time, some people might give me a suggestion and I try it out and be like, hey, that actually works. I'm not gonna be hard-headed on things that don't matter. I just wanna figure out the best way of doing it that makes sense for my budget and for my business. And that's what you guys want as well. And the other thing with having an SOP, a standard operating procedure, is that it's much easier for you to train someone, whether you have a friend, family member, an employee, a team. They know exactly what to do. So when you are gone from your business, you're on vacation, or maybe you really don't have a large presence in your business anymore and you're like the boss and you are kind of behind the scenes, all of the people that are working on your team know exactly what to do and they're not going to be confused or fumbling around. And your business is going to just flow a lot smoother when everyone's on the same page with what you're trying to do. And even if you are by yourself, you still want to be doing things to a standard because that kind of reflects your brand, right? If you have a customer and they're receiving packages and they're just all weirdly packed and they're not uniform and things are not correct, even the products you sell, if they're not, if they're not receiving the standard product that they ordered and they're receiving different t-shirts, different types of stickers, that are not the same, that's really bad and reflective of your brand. So you want to make sure that you have an obvious standard. Number 3 is do one piece flow. This is a common mistake. I see a lot of people with clothing brands do this. And I mentioned this in previous videos. So when you're packing, you want to be packing a single order at a time. You do not want to be staging. Staging is a really, really bad idea because your margin of error is going to go up. And what it does essentially is that all of your orders are left in process. They're not being completed. So I've seen this many times. People will fold a t-shirt, they put their packing list on there, maybe some stickers on there, and then they put in that pile, and on their website it's marked as fulfilled because they have printed out all the packing slips and the shipping labels, but that order is not fulfilled. That order is not done. That order is in process and it's being staged. And then what they do is they will pile that up, then pile another order up, and what's happening is that their entire room is being filled with orders that are not completed. Those orders are not packed and they're not ready to go. And this obviously takes up a lot of space, and basically what you're doing is you're handling the clothing and materials over and over and over again. You're picking them up, you're moving over here, then you're putting it over here, then you're packing over there, then you're putting it over here. Whereas if you grab a clothing item or the item that they ordered, pack it, put the packing slip in, put the shipping label on, and then you close it, that is fulfilled. That's ready to go. That package can be sent to the post office. And by the time that you stage all of your orders, I have already actually fulfilled half of my orders, if you get what I'm saying. And especially when you're dealing with time constraints throughout the day, this is especially important because the post office closes at a certain time. And what if you had 100 orders staged and none of them are actually fulfilled, and then you have to go to the post office and you have nothing to present to that day, whereas I might have half of my orders done and ready to go. And this has been proven time and time again that it's faster to do it one at a time when you're fulfilling And you guys can watch videos about this on YouTube. There's lots of videos about this explaining how exactly it works. And also, I mentioned this earlier, it's just, it's less confusing when you're having to deal with a long list of all these slips that you picked out, and now you're trying to sort them out where they go. Whereas I'm solely focused on doing one order at a time and completing that order, and it's finished and sent out. And this point kind of leads on into point number 4, and that is to have full focus. So when you're doing One Piece Flow and you're fulfilling one order at a time, your entire focus should be on that order, and that's the objective. You want to make sure that you are fulfilling that order with 100% accuracy. I'm going to put that in here. And that's kind of back to the very first point I was making about scoring the goal in soccer. That's kind of the whole objective of it, and this is the objective of your clothing brand as well, is you don't want to fumble this process right here. You want to have 100% accuracy. So if a customer, if they order this t-shirt right here, this small black t-shirt, I need to send them this small black t-shirt. I can't send them a large. I can't send them a small of another design. If I do that, I completely messed up the order. And what that basically entails is that they're going to be less satisfied. There's going to be way more hassle, whether that means exchanging something with them or they keep it, you sending them out another order, which means you're losing another product, which means another customer can't order that product, which means you are paying more for shipping. Yada, 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 yada. All this process all happens because of a mistake when you should be very, very fully focused on fulfilling your order on your computer, not being distracted. A lot of distractions could be like multiple tabs on your computer. So you do not want to be like, oh, okay, I'm going to go change my music. Oh, I'm going to go check my Facebook. Oh, I'm going to check an email. You want to have a very limited amount of tabs open. Typically what I would do is I'll have an email open only for orders that are popping up because people might have to adjust an order, but I'm not checking my email, like just generally checking it for, customer service and other things that are not related to what I'm trying to do. I will have the Shopify tab open or whatever service you guys might be using for your website. And those are kind of the only 2 tabs really that I need open at that time. I don't want anything else open. I might have like a YouTube tab open with like a very long track list of music playing in the background, but I don't want to be pressing that and flipping through that to find music. Don't do that. Just have something playing in the background that kind of helps you focus, if music helps you focus. But yeah, don't have a bunch of tabs open. The other thing that you do not want to do is as soon as you press print for your labels, and those labels get printed, you need to immediately close that tab of labels. So close shipping labels. The reason why you want to do that is because you might accidentally reuse an old label, and you might click print again on that same label, and you might have 2 packages you're fulfilling. They're going to the same spot when they need to be going to 2 different places because you printed out the wrong label. So when you're fulfilling an order and you're printing a shipping label, print that shipping label, attach it to your package, and then immediately close that shipping label tab and get on to the next order. You do not want to have that open. That is super, super important. And I think I made this mistake maybe once or twice. I learned my lesson from that because someone was like, hey, I never received my order. And then I'm like, oh, it was fulfilled, but I guess it didn't come to you guys. And then I figured out that this is what happened. So that's unfortunate, but you learn from your mistakes. Another thing that you want to do, and for this one, this can be a lot of things as well. This could be like having your phone out. You don't want to be like fumbling on your phone, going through social media. Any distractions that you think will plague you throughout your time fulfilling orders, just get rid of them completely and be solely focused on fulfilling your orders. Have full focus. The 5th one is you want to have a wait period. I have briefly mentioned this in the past. it's good to, a good practice in general is to not fulfill an order immediately. The reason why is because a customer might have a revision that they need to do specifically with their address. And typically, from what I've noticed, is you will get that email to revise an address within like 5 to 15 minutes. And what would happen is if you fulfilled this order and you packed it all up, you put the stickers in, the customer's like, hey, can you, you know, I don't want to add this other order in or this other item in, but I don't want to pay extra shipping. Can we revise the order? And then they order another thing, or they have to change their shipping address. And what that happens is in that situation, the first one, you will have to rip open the bag and then have your two items together, put another bag on it, print out another shipping label that's adjusted, or at the very least, you might have to print another shipping label for just that one shirt or whatever they ordered because it has a new address on it. So basically what that means is that you're going to be wasting time opening stuff up, revising stuff, when you could do that before you pack. So you want to have a waiting period, and I would suggest something like 15 minutes to 1 hour is a good interval for waiting on fulfilling orders. And maybe you guys will kind of get a feel for this and learn what works best for you guys. Another cool thing about waiting a little bit is that a customer might order, like this has happened to me many times actually. So a customer orders something and then half an hour later or 40 minutes later, they order another totally separate order. And when that happens and I checked the address and they're going to the exact same place, I will almost always put those together and send it out. And that way it's cheaper shipping for me because I'm not paying for two shipping labels, and it's also more convenient for them because typically there's going to be less strain on the postal system and they're going to get their orders faster, and there's not two separate things floating around in the postal system. They're just one, so it's going to be more streamlined to get their order to them. So that's another thing with the waiting period, is that you can combine orders and save on shipping costs. 6. So now we're going to go on to just some very general basic tips. You want to be thoroughly looking over your order. Thoroughly look through. So this kind of seems like something that's very obvious, like, okay, you look at your order and then you go grab your items and you make sure that, you know, you got the right stuff. But what you might not realize is that when you're packing a lot of orders, like let's just say you have 100 orders to pack in a day, you're kind of like in a rhythm, and you can get zoned out doing that because you're just going through packing, you're listening to music, and you can zone out and totally like miss some important things. And I'll explain some important things you can miss, the ones that I have personally had to deal with. That would be the product number. So what I mean by that is you might be packing an order and you're like, oh, a customer ordered this small t-shirt, but then you really aren't paying really close attention. You don't have full focus, and you miss the part that it says ×2. So a customer actually ordered 2 of these t-shirts and not 1. And ordering 2 of the same item is typically more rare when you're fulfilling orders, from my experience, than if they just ordered 1 t-shirt. So a lot of times people literally order 1 t-shirt and I fulfill that. But I always check the amount that they ordered. I always go through and check that line specifically because sometimes they do order multiple products. In the past, I have missed this probably 3 or 4 times. I remember one time I had a customer and they would always order like 2 sticker packs, and I literally sent them 1 sticker pack twice. So they order a sticker pack or 2 sticker packs. I sent them 1. They emailed me like, hey, I didn't get my second one. I'm like, oh man, I'm so sorry. I sent them another one and some extra free stickers. Then like a month later, they ordered another 2 packs of sticker packs because they were a repeat customer and they liked the stickers. And I did the exact same thing to that customer. Then they emailed me. I'm like, oh man, I'm so sorry. And then I figured out the situation. But after that point, I was very cognizant of always checking the amount of products to make sure that I'm sending them, like if they order 2 or 3 of that product. Sometimes, a lot of times with stickers too, if you guys are just selling stickers or small items, people will order multiples of one sticker like many times. So just the other day, they ordered like a bunch of stickers. They ordered like 3 of this one, 4 of this one, 2 of this one, 3 of this one, 3 of this one. Like just the list was like that. So typically with stickers and small items, you might see that. It's a little bit less. It's a little bit rarer with like clothing items, like specifically ordering like the same t-shirt or something like that, but it does happen. You want to make sure that you're checking that. I know it sounds obvious, but like I said earlier, you get zoned out and you don't really catch that kind of stuff. And then the second one is the address. This will save you a lot of headache if you just quickly glance at the address, and you will get a feel for this over time, what is a legitimate address and what's not a legitimate address. And just from a quick glance, I wouldn't say you need to go in depth and like look over each address. That's gonna take too much time of your day, and it's not really gonna accomplish much. But sometimes you might see an address with lines in it that need to be taken out, or you see an address that totally does not look like it's a real address, and Shopify will probably flag it as not a complete address, which at that point you could go and cross-reference to see if it is a legitimate address. And what you can do at that point is you can email the customer and be like, hey, we're missing a PO box, we're missing an apartment number. And if you take care of that issue right away and resolve it before you ship it out, you're gonna save a lot of hassle, because the post office is going to do a RTS, which means return to sender, and that package is going to go back to you. Then you have to email the customer and figure out another way to get it sent out to them. Or what you would do in that point is you might have to cancel the entire order and refund them, and then they reorder it. That way you're not paying for their return shipping again to ship it out again, especially with international customers. So that little detail, just quickly glance at the address and see if it's missing anything, like just really critical stuff, like if it's missing the area code or like the road. If it's a totally incomplete address, I would suggest immediately emailing that customer to get their real address, because as soon as you send that out to the post office, it could come back within 2 days or 15 days because it's incomplete address, and the customer is waiting that entire period and their order is not getting to them simply because of that. The last tip I have is be aware of slight product differences. This also sounds kind of common sense and obvious, but you would be surprised how many times you can make mistakes with these little things. And I'll give you an example. Just give me 1 second, guys. So here is 2 hoodies, and probably from this video you might not be able to tell the difference in color, or they look really similar depending on the color settings. This is a navy blue hoodie, and this is a black hoodie of the same design, and they look really similar. So when you're fulfilling an order and you are going off your Shopify and you just look at the photo but you don't read the text of the product description, that's a big no-no. You always want to look at the photo to get a visualization, and then make sure you're reading through the product text. Because if a customer ordered this hoodie and I just simply look at the photo and grab something just because I think I know it all, I might grab the wrong one. And I know, like I said again, I know this sounds like, yeah, this is common sense, but this is a typical mistake that can happen, is when you have 2 really similar products and you're zoned out and you're flowing and packing lots of orders, you might make this critical mistake of sending them the wrong, it's a slightly different color or a slightly different style. Like for instance, I have a design right now, and one's a snapback and one's a dad cap, and they look really similar online. But they're obviously there's a big difference because the hat is shaped differently, but the design on it is all the same and all that kind of stuff. So that's like another example of 2 really similar products. So I have to make sure when I pack that order that I'm really reading it through and not just looking at the picture. So yeah, those are just some quick tips and best shipping practices that I've learned over almost like 7 years of doing this. And these have helped me a lot. And when I have made these mistakes in the past, I recorded them and I'm like, hey, okay, if I make this mistake, I want to do a course correction so I don't do it again in the future. And that is how I learned to, not do these certain things and to keep track of what I'm doing wrong. And maybe for some of you, you might not be doing these mistakes. You might be doing other mistakes, but if you do those mistakes, catch them and course correct and make a contingency plan so you won't do that mistake again. And if you do that, you are going to be way, way closer to this main objective, of having 100% accuracy for fulfilling your orders, which is kind of the main thing of a clothing brand, right? Getting customer orders it and you send out their product and they get your product. So yeah, if you guys got any value out of this video, or if you have any comments or questions, you can leave them down in the comment section below, and I'll catch you guys later. Thanks.